10 coats of paint, stained in tobacco.
Well, good afternoon to you. I still hear the music. Isn't that interesting? Huh. Hey, let me just tell you what that music and all that stuff is about, where you have the ambient sound. Good afternoon. You know, it is because I went to Ireland 2 years ago, and I went to Foxy John's in Dingle in Ireland. It was a pub, and it is a hardware store, and they still sell everything hardware. They still sell all kinds of things there, including coffee in the morning and a little stronger if you want something in your coffee, or drinks and whenever you want them after that. So pretty interesting. It was adorable. I went there 3 times just because I just loved the atmosphere of that place. And I talked to the bartender, the coffee guy in the morning, and that's the ambient sound that you hear. I'm talking with him. I'm like, so what was that again? Anyway, so today on the Adult in the Room podcast live stream, we'll talk about why California's intentionally chaotic elections system is a threat to the country, because everybody wants to do the dumb stuff that California is doing, everybody but the red states. And so they want to purloin the ideas that are just riven. They're drawing a huge fissure between right and left in the state of California, and why people are suggesting that there's rampant fraud. We're going to talk about that. And also, we have to tell you that President Trump is trying to tamp down the chaos by imposing or trying to get through some mail-in balloting provisions. We're going to talk about that. And what's interesting is that he's trying to make the mail-in balloting a little bit more secure, since it is the federal constitutionally mandated U.S. Post Office that is doing the heavy lifting on our elections using mail-in ballots. So he does have a dog in the fight. And so we'll tell you about that coming up. Then I'm going to talk with my town hall colleague, Jen Van Laar. She is the managing editor of Red State, who can go over with us a few of the fraud allegations, other things that make what the election has been like in California, what it will probably look like in November. These are the kinds of things that are important. And a mini Iran sit rep on the program today, just real quick, because of course, Donald Trump has been bombing the hell out of these guys because they just have tapping him along, as he puts it. And I'll tell you about the extraordinary rescue of 2 Army Apache helicopter pilots. Okay, so we'll do that coming up. And I just want to say one more thing to those people who said I did not have the right to my own opinion on drone boats. Homegirl, right here. Right, I was right. Trump's got secret oil going out of the Strait of Hormuz. We'll tell you about that. It's Epstein Thursday. Both Bill Gates and Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General, in the news. And the Pam Bondi deposition has been released, and we'll go over that. There's been some kind of interesting things in there. I always like the byplay. It's always really interesting to see the Democrats do things, the Republicans are doing things. Each of the attorneys are working. And Harmeet Dillon, who's in charge of the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, Department of Justice in the United States of America, was also in that hearing, sort of as secondhand to Pam Bondi. Kind of interesting. And remember, it is time for, not right now, but I mean, it is hot book summer. Yeah, that's right. We have, I talked to on Tuesday a really interesting author who's just written a book about J.K. Rowling, backstory, all kinds of a variety of information. So we'll do that and just go back and look at it. And then we've got a bunch of things coming up. We've got spy thriller author Don Bentley, who writes in the Vince Flynn universe, coming on. I've got him scheduled. 2 brand new spy thriller authors who sound incredible. So they're coming on this summer, and I've got more slots to fill. If you have an idea for a book author, let me know. It is now my honor to welcome a member of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission, I think he's still on there, and leader of the Public Interest Legal Foundation, whose work is solely to make sure that the elections process is as clean and pure as it can be. Christian Adams, town hall colleague, PJ Media, and all around good guy. How are you?
I'm doing great, Victoria. Thanks for having me.
Well, one of the things we wanted to do was today to talk about the U.S. Supreme Court decision on how long election days is going to be, and it didn't come today, even though a lot of people thought it was. But what happened there? Do we know?
I'll tell you, on the East Coast, it's like a 10 a.m. dance. You sit there and hit the refresh button.
That's what I was doing.
I guess on the West Coast, what? My math is bad, but I want to say 7.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we did it today. We do it a lot, and no opinion in the Watson case.
And that would do what?
So it's going to plug a big hole in our election vulnerabilities, I think. I'm optimistic. And the issue in front of the Supreme Court is, what does a statute mean when it says all ballots must be cast by election day? Election day. It doesn't say election month, election couple of weeks. It says they must be cast by a certain date. So the issue in front of the court is, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Does it mean ballots have to be in by Tuesday on election day, or can states just keep trickling them in like California and North Dakota used to, Minnesota, and so forth?
And so you wrote an excellent piece for PJ Media. Let me just bring that on for all our perusal here. Let's make sure we got this. California election security under fire. No, that's a different one. I apologize.
It says California chaos
by design. Yes, yeah. Here it is. I apologize. That was another story I was going to talk to Jen Van Laar about, as a matter of fact, coming up in a little bit. Let's go over some of the ideas that you propound in this story, which is just a real good overview of why the hell California is so chaotic. Can you explain why you say it is intentional?
Yeah, because look, this is something that's gone on for almost 20 years. the legislature in Sacramento passed a variety of election law changes going back many years that were very deliberate. A lot of people are very focused on voter fraud. I wish it was only voter fraud. It's way more potent. It's way more problematic. And that is they engaged in structural changes in how we run elections. You don't even need voter fraud. These structural changes were designed to take advantage of cultural tailwinds, things they know about the human condition, ways to win elections that does not require fraud. They just change the rules of how the elections are run, and progressives win. And that's what I've been trying to talk about for almost 20 years, that there's these people out there, and in the case of California, law school professors who are focused on transforming the system to create a different outcome.
So some of the changes in the system include automatic voter registration. How corrosive is that?
It's horrifying. And think about, we'll get to the ultimate payoff, Victoria, but what it means is anytime you touch the government, whether it's a driver's license, whether it's a welfare check, whether it's Social Security, whatever it happens to be, you get registered to vote. It's called automatic voter registration. You don't opt in, you don't fill out a form. They just take your information and crank it into the system. This was something that the left passed through a law in Sacramento. It's not fraud, it's a law. It's actually legal. It's like anti-fraud. And it means that everybody who's going to get welfare is automatically getting registered. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's not just welfare. It's across the board. And what does that do, Victoria? It puts a thumb on the scale that the election outcomes will be toward people who are linked to the government, not like some hunter guy who has a ranch and doesn't ever ask for handouts. It's linked to the government.
Okay. It's linked to the government, and also it's linked to illegal aliens, because California allows illegal aliens to get all kinds of benefits.
Yeah, and look, California will tell you that they've got a system in place to prevent that. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but let's assume even if they don't, or if they do have a system to prevent illegal aliens, it still creates outcomes that are more progressive. Even if you don't have the illegal vote involved, the whole system of automatic voter registration is to create more progressive winners.
Yeah. So a lot of people would like to push the panic button when they see some really hinky thing going on. We'll talk to Jen about that, but I mean, paying people to vote, that's illegal. But the other thing is, but you're saying that structurally, it is fundamentally flawed, and that's where the problem is. Like, oh no, it's perfectly legal. But that's why normal people say this smells to high heaven. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I heard a pause, so I thought you wanted me to jump. So
yes,
listen,
please.
I'm sorry.
No.
So here's imagine you're on the left and you're trying to design a system, and you want to be able to design a system that has your opponents, like you and me, screaming, "It's voter fraud," and then they say, "Oh, okay, show us." And they know how hard it is to prove actual voter fraud. So we get stuck in this deep stall.
Right.
Where, we're struggling to find voter fraud. It's like trying to capture fog. It's there, we can see it, but try to quantify fog. Try to grab it in a jar. And so what they have done instead is create a system where our only argument is they shouldn't be voting if they get welfare. You see what they've done? They would rather us get stuck trying to prove voter fraud, like chasing phantoms and catching fog. We know the fog is there, but get it in the jar, instead of us falling in the trap of saying someone who gets welfare shouldn't be voting, or why shouldn't that woman who works 3 jobs not get a mail ballot sent to her house automatically? They have put us in a crossfire rhetorically.
The other thing you say, this is your second point, next comes automatically mailing ballots to every single registrant, even those automatically registered, and then ballots fill the mailboxes across the state. This is a problem, especially started since 2020. Tell me what the net effect of that would be on the sanctity of the elections process in California.
Yeah, so what they have done is devise a system that gets the low propensity voter to vote. And here we are, like they're watching this going, well, what's wrong with that? Well,
Right.
see, that's the dilemma. There really isn't anything wrong with it.
No.
But what they have done is create a system where nobody even cares about politics. Let's take this person. They don't want to vote. They don't care to vote. They don't pay attention to issues. Let's just pretend they're like high half the time for good measure. We'll throw in a couple criminal convictions. A real upstanding citizen. They don't register to vote, but they suddenly get registered because of automatic vote registration. Then they're sitting at home. They don't care about the election for mayor. And all of a sudden, the mailman brings them a ballot they never asked for. You see how this works? And they're like, oh, wow, cool. This only takes me 5 seconds. I'll just vote for, Democrat, or because I don't like those. So what you have just seen, and they drop it in the mail, what you've just seen, Victoria, is the progressives have captured a vote that they could not have captured in 1995 or 2005. They've created a structure that allows them to win elections by scraping and dredging up all those low propensity voters in a way through structure they never had before.
I'm all in favor of making sure everybody has access to the franchise. That's what being a citizen is. But the fact is that you also, I don't know that you mentioned this, but when you send if you have a flawed system of keeping track of voters in the first place, and you mail out wholesale ballots to people who may or may not be on a legitimate and well curated voter roll, you get fraud. You get voter impersonation, which we've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, that happens on the back end of all of this structural change is, somebody moves. Remember, here's the more genius of the design. People who live in apartments move more. People who live in apartments tend to be Democrats. So what I've just described to you structurally sends more ballots into your apartment of people who never lived there and haven't lived there for years. So suddenly the upstanding citizen I described earlier doesn't just get his ballot, he gets 3 more from someone who used to live there.
Right.
Now, let's assume that many of those upstanding citizens will not break the law and vote the ballot. Of course, that's not 100% true. Some will.
To you? I still hear the music.
Yes, some will vote those ballots illegally. Not all will, but some will. And so all of the structural changes I just described to you not only scrapes up every progressive vote that couldn't be had 30 years ago, on the margins it creates people casting ballots that weren't really theirs. And so, not to mention, I've seen California's voter rolls. The Public Interest Legal Foundation has them, and they're full of missing information, like missing dates of birth, which is like a permanent seat on the voter rolls because they can never clean you off because they don't know if it's really you. So the whole thing is a mess.
And I know that the folks over at Judicial Watch just talked about the fact that there are 800,000 plus ghost voters on this, and that is people who don't have any, there's no tether to the voter and the system. They're just there and they're receiving ballots. Is that true?
I think what they have are people who haven't come off and haven't voted for a significant number of elections. I think that's what they mean by that. We have the same data, and really there's no federal obligation that you have to remove them. We've been litigating this all over the country, and the courts have basically said, if you have a program, I think we talked about this once before, if you have a program, you've got a safe harbor. And so the big issue I'm concerned about in the voter rolls in California are all those missing dates of birth. We've run them through databases, the names, 95,000 deceased voters on the rolls. That's 95,000 ballots that went out that the voter is not alive in California. 95,000. Public Interest Legal Foundation spent a lot of money comparing the voter rolls to databases like credit reporting databases that we have access to show that they're dead. That's what's really troubling to me is the people who have been dead and are still getting ballots mailed to their former residents.
Now, the question I have, your organization went out and went to places where people were registered to vote in Nevada. And in Nevada, they were registered at 7-Elevens and casinos and all sorts of places they weren't there anymore. You literally check to see if, hey, is Bob Smith here? And they're going, what are you talking about? Has that been done in California? Have people gone to places where they purport to be living, the voter is purported to be living, and checked?
Well, look, I'm not sure. So I don't know the answer, but I think, you know what? I think we'll do it. And I know one thing, we're going to be looking in the fall in the general election at places that are getting large number of ballots. We're going to be collecting that video, Victoria, so stay tuned.
Okay.
And so, California, a lot of people have thought has been a lost cause.
Right.
And I think that's why it didn't get much attention. That's one of the reasons we decided last year, because we got enough support from the public to do it, to start to look carefully at California. And that's why we, ordered the database and have found the 95,000 dead. So
how come they'll give you the database, but they won't give the feds the database?
Well, this is a little difference. We're generally using a different law than the feds. And we've won court cases. That's the other big difference, is we've been winning these cases around the country for a decade. When people deny us the voter rolls, we have a record of success in getting these records from the states.
Okay, so what law are you using as opposed to what the feds can do? I mean, Harmeet Dillon's trying to get this. Surely you've spoken with her.
No, I haven't.
Oh, blimey.
What we're using is the National Voter Registration Act. We've defeated states like Maine. We just settled a case against Arizona that was denying us public records under the NVRA. They actually wrote us a nice fat $10,000 check for attorney's fees. We've beat states like all over the country. I mean, Alaska, Oregon, Arizona, New Mexico. We're winning cases and getting public records under the NVRA.
Mm-hmm. Why could the feds use that? Could the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ say under that NVRA we could get those access to the voter rolls? Yes.
Yeah, Victoria. Look, I'm not an employee of the Civil Rights Division anymore. I used to be a long time ago.
I know.
And so if the Attorney General wants help, we're happy to help.
Okay. All right. I'm going to show you something. This is not confirmed. Okay. This is just this is a person asking leading questions of homeless people in LA. So take that for what it's worth. Tell me if this is illegal.
And then did they come down here and try and pay you to vote?
Yes.
On a ballot?
Yes.
How much they pay you?
$5.
And they said, here, come and vote for these candidates?
Yes, sir.
They told you who to vote for?
Yes.
So they told you to vote for Karen Bass or Cynthia Rahman?
Karen Bass.
Did you vote for Karen Bass?
Yeah.
For $5?
Yeah.
Did you vote?
Yeah.
You did for Karen Bass?
Yeah.
Karen? They told you to vote for Karen?
Yeah. They had to sign a little thing.
And how much they pay you?
It was like $2.
$2? Oh, to sign off on a thing to vote for her?
Yeah.
They say, oh, do you want to vote for Karen or Nithya? Or they just tell you to vote for Karen, huh?
It was really voting her, man.
Okay, then he goes on to brag that he got $4 because he knows how to, drive a bargain. And I mean, if this is true, this comports with what we've seen in the homeless community in San Francisco as well as LA. James O'Keefe had a pretty blockbuster story, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If this is true, is this illegal?
Yeah, a couple things to unpack here. I had a case out of Noxubee, Mississippi with a lot of very similar behavior when I was at the Justice Department that we took a lot of work to crack open. Eventually, we won that case. And a couple things. Number one, federal law does not allow you to get something of value to vote for a federal office. I am pretty sure California had federal offices on the ballot in that election. I would like
congressional office. Yeah, I think
yeah,
there was
exactly.
A congressional
So
primary, yeah.
that makes it a federal crime. So if somebody's really interested in stopping voter fraud, they would go arrest those people under federal law. We'll see if that happens. And then the other issue is One guy sounded like he was paid to register to vote because he said he signed something. Normally, you don't sign something when you vote
Right.
unless it's an absentee ballot envelope. So it's unclear to me whether, and I wish the guy had asked the question, right? Like, this is what happens, I guess, sometimes when you're trying to get answers. I wish I knew whether it's to register to vote or to vote, because that can make a little bit of a difference. And so the last thing that's sort of weird about all these are admissions against interest, Victoria. Like,
Right.
they're like saying, yeah, I robbed the bank, or yeah, I really did kill my wife. It's like, do they live in a space where they don't realize what they're doing? Apparently so.
I think people feel impervious to the law and nobody's doing anything about them. And obviously, a couple of those people were as high as a kite. Nobody cares.
Well, like I said, Victoria, if the FBI and the DOJ really wanted to do something rather than talk about this, they would go make arrests.
And they have. They arrested Brenda, a woman who was, she was doing two things. She was paying people to register to vote and then having them sign petitions following their voter registration. And they were still given something of value for the entire enterprise. And she's been rolled up by the feds. As a matter of fact, I have that somewhere here.
Good.
Here we go. Yeah, so she's the feds have done a good job. This is the woman who was the key person in the James O'Keefe undercover video sting. I mean,
So
just
let's
caught him
rewind
20.
why I sound so sort of like get out there and do your job. There's been an inertia at the DOJ going back when I was there that, we don't get involved in this sort of thing. And the whole so-called, go Wikipedia, U.S. Attorney Scandal 2006, 20 years ago, folks, some people said the U.S. attorneys ought to be prosecuting these people. And Senator Leahy and other Democrats in the Senate had hearings to criticize the people who wanted voter fraud prosecutions. And some U.S. attorneys resigned and then became like anti-Bush New York Times darlings because they said, I didn't want to prosecute voter fraud. So you got to understand there's an inertia inside the department against prosecution.
Oh, great. Oh, that's wonderful. Plus, there's been all sorts of stuff going on with respect to the DOJ right now. And a lot of people quit and all that jazz. And you would know more than I do about that since you live in the DMV and you know all the players and have worked there. So, and we appreciate everything you do and appreciate that story that you wrote for PJ Media and sort of laying it out there in simplest terms and talking about the structural problems with this voting, milieu, this whole, I don't even know. It's not a machine. It's just a mess.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, J. Christian Adams. The Public Interest Legal Foundation. PILF is where you'll find it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Okay. Well, so sometimes what you think is, this looks wrong. This is an example of voter fraud or what have you. Not necessarily, actually. And so sometimes it's just the system that is just utterly dysfunctional. And so it is in California. And so if you do roll up people who have paid people to vote, paid people to sign petitions, which, by the way, not okay either. That's against the law. And but if you're getting them to with the idea that you're going to pay them $5-10, like remember now we had the journalist from San Francisco, citizen journalist, takes video. He finds people who are being told what names and addresses to put on the petitions. Like, oh, okay, they have to register to, well, actually, in this case, they are purloining someone's identity. They are cheating. And so, obviously, that's not okay either, right? Am I right? Am I right? Okay, I want to make sure. Yeah, here is James O'Keefe. Before we talk to Jen Van Laar, who's coming on any moment, let us go to this particular deal here. I want you to see it. This is an expose done by James O'Keefe And this is sort of a synopsis of his multi-part series. Let's watch, shall we?
God, we're gonna give you $2. You gotta need 14 signatures.
The petitioner Brenda Brown hands cash money to the homeless person, not only for signing the California ballot initiative, but also as payment for them to register to vote.
Now, because you haven't registered, I need to register you so I can get paid too. I'm paying you guys, I need to get paid.
That is a federal felony. And it didn't just happen once, it happened over and over and over again. We personally witnessed and covertly filmed this happening at least 28 times over the span of our investigation. And that is just in Los Angeles. Many of the homeless have zero understanding of what it is that they're actually signing.
But what is that petition for? You know the petition for?
I do not know.
The petitioners instruct the homeless to enter made-up addresses like Pinocchio Lane.
What do I put as my address?
Yeah, just put you live on Pinocchio Lane.
Oh, you can just take it.
Oh, good.
And all of this occurring just outside the front doors of shelters and NGOs such as Weingart Center, which have received hundreds of millions of dollars in government money. One Weingart employee tells us when and where to find the illegal cash exchanges for signatures outside, and says the cash being given out is coming from a higher source.
Do you know if they provide the money that they're handing out?
Yeah,
The company
that's what they give out. When they give the money out, they got to go back and tally up if they stealing the money or not, so they got to have signatures. Most of them be right across the street under that tree. You can check with them Monday through Friday.
So Brenda, this guy's saying, and in fact it happened, where Brenda copped a plea and with the feds, and Brenda is the person who was paying people and keeping track, like that gentleman just said. Hey, well, they have to keep track of the money that they took, the money that they gave out in exchange for the voter registration and or the signature on a petition. Ruh-roh. So there's plenty of evidence in this thing. And it goes on and on and on. This isn't the only place where this is happening. We saw that in San Francisco as well. It is a sieve in California. Not only do they not help do anything about drug addicts on the streets that are doing this, and they call them the homeless people. And I don't mean to make light of that. They are drug addicts on the streets. That they're not homeless people per se. They probably have a place to go. But they look the other way. Oh, we couldn't possibly follow up on what the homeless people are signing. Yeah, you could, but you don't. And James O'Keefe went out there and got the goods.
While another Weingart employee advises the homeless on how to practice plausible deniability and ignorance of the law.
See, they say ignorance is not excuse for the law. But a lot of times I have to say I didn't know. I had no idea.
Oh, that would be what he should say.
He should say.
Yeah. The petitioners orchestrate an elaborate pyramid scheme of unregistered petition circulators.
If I were to hire you, you would be under me.
Yes.
I'm under my son, I'm under him, and you under me. So
That's Brenda.
it's like a pyramid game.
Brenda's in trouble with the feds now. And I can tell you, in all likelihood, Brenda is singing like a bird.
And really, I don't need you, you need me. I don't need you.
One of the petitioners threatens
Whoa.
to attack one of our journalists.
Go down the street, bro, before we move you down the street. I'll knock you out looking right at me.
Bro, why are you trying to be like that, bro?
Man won't knock your ass out. Bitch ass nigga, don't come over here again. I'm gonna beat your ass.
And an employee of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority records not the fraud, but the people exposing it.
That you okay?
Why are you filming us? I'm with the LAPD.
You know it's a crime to say you're the police. Well, that's what you just said 2 minutes ago. Why did you lie?
As the NGOs pretended to be the police.
I mean, this goes on for several minutes, and we've played some of it before. We have shown you the video from San Francisco where they were paying people to sign petitions and, all of that. And it's a mess. But to properly characterize it, I go now to my town hall colleague, Jen Van Laar. She is the managing editor of Red State publication and very well-regarded publication. And Jen Van Laar, how are you?
I'm just been baffled and stunned and all those other words all week.
Tell me what the state of play is right now from Spencer Pratt to Steve Hilton.
Whew. Well, Steve Hilton, I'll start with the easy one. We know that obviously the official canvas still has to be completed statewide and the election certified, but it looks like there's no way that anyone other than Javier Becerra and Steve Hilton will be the two candidates on the ballot for governor. City of LA mayor, a lot different. It actually does look like it'll be Nithya Raman and Karen Bass at this point. Spencer Pratt, as your listeners I'm sure well know, was leading and seemed to have it locked up until just statistical anomalies that have never ever happened before, with all of these ballots coming in from Skid Row, all voting for the DSA candidate, came in and rocketed Nithya Raman, who at this point has a 30,000-ish vote lead over Spencer Pratt to go into second place. So that's where that is. But I know that his team is working on a couple of different things. There's about 13,000 ballots citywide to be cured. And so we don't know how many of those are Pratt ballots, but I've been seeing a huge increase in people online saying, hey, I voted for Spencer and I got this notice that my signature wasn't accepted and I need to fix it. They're also looking at, just like what you were showing right before I came on the air, where these NGOs have been registering voters and potential fraud. But the thing is, they have to get over that threshold. They need to show that there's a likelihood that more than the margin between Nithya Raman and Spencer Pratt could be fraudulent, and then that could block the certification of the election and go into all kinds of other legal remedies and investigations.
I mean, it is California. You kind of wonder if California has the desire to look into anything at this point. It's moving along just fine for the Democrats who are in charge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I looked a little bit into that yesterday because there's a lot of differences depending on whether it's a municipal election, a statewide election for a federal office, and if the municipality is a charter city or not. And Los Angeles is a charter city, but they adopt the California election code guidelines for when people can challenge certification and have that kind of thing. So unfortunately, it goes to the California state courts if that's the route. And we saw with the Prop 50, when we were trying to get that from, trying to keep it from being on the ballot, all the California courts just wouldn't even give a hearing, wouldn't even say why they wouldn't give a hearing. And because it was a state constitution matter, SCOTUS couldn't take it up on that, or the federal courts couldn't take it up on that. So I would foresee this being the same thing legally. If it's a municipal election, it's governed by California law. Unless there's some way to show that federal civil rights were violated or some other federal issue that would allow them to come in, that would seem to be something that you could still bring up and have the hearing, and that's great because then people are aware that this fraud actually happens.
Yeah.
That might not be a remedy for this election.
You know, I just talked to Jay Christian Adams, our colleague at Town Hall as well, who's he was talking about how the whole map of how elections are done. And by that, I mean just like the different Byzantine little ways in which you know, all of a sudden you can't, Gavin Newsom is rushed through a executive order or a law in the legislature, or you can't get
in the Assembly and the Senate, amazingly.
Yeah, no, tell me what that was all about. You can't gather ballots when, yeah, go ahead.
It has to do with, I don't know if you followed the story about Sheriff Bianco after the Prop 50 election. There was a big difference between the number of votes cast and the registered voter. I think that's what it was. There was a big discrepancy in numbers that shouldn't have been there. I can't remember the specifics of it.
Okay.
But based on that, he sees the ballots, which they have to keep for 6 months, and to do an investigation to see what's going on there. And of course, Rob Bonta opposed to that. So was Gavin Newsom. They don't want transparency. So they started, I believe, at that moment working on this bill, and it mostly has to do with not allowing federal law enforcement or anyone else to take control of ballots after, for some kind of an investigation. Sorry, this has me all befuddled. But the other part
of that bill
was that because you can have election observers there watching when the ballots are being opened for the signature match thing. So that law made it where these observers cannot challenge the validity of a ballot based on signature match, which I think is complete. What are they doing then? They're checking.
Yeah, what?
I mean, that's what they're doing.
What cracks me up is that some of the. Oh, I think I have a picture of somebody's signature. Let me see if I can find it. But I mean, they're taking the most bizarre signatures ever. I mean, check this out. I'm sure you've seen this. I assume it's true. You never know. There's a smile face.
Well, that one I know that one in particular is not an actual ballot that was counted. It was my friend Hamadi who made that as an example. But there is no reason why that wouldn't be counted under current California law. And based on this new, like in the past, we could have at least challenged it and said, okay, come on, that's not a signature match. But now you can't even challenge that.
That's unconstitutional, it would seem to me to be.
I think that's a civil rights violation.
I think it's a civil rights violation.
It's violating my civil rights.
Absolutely.
Have that person's vote counted.
Yeah, it's diluting your vote, your voice. Right. So I kind of wonder, like, so Spencer Pratt goes back, and I know he's fighting some of this. He's just trying to get some votes cured, which is to say, within a 21-day period, they can go back if somebody wants to go back and change their vote should they wish to, or they can, your signature, all of a sudden we're really concerned about signature matching. That makes me laugh. And it's just his ballots apparently where they're having problems. At least that's what,
so far that's what we know. They can't change their vote, but what the curing is there's something, like, it's generally either a signature missing or the signature doesn't match. And they're being very curious with the Pratt voters. I had a couple of them message me privately. One guy said he's already submitted 2 forms, like with his signature, to verify the signature that was on the ballot, and both of those forms have been rejected. So that's kind of weird. I mean, what does he need to do? Go down? And the problem is in LA County, or LA City even, is so big. Parts of LA City are way up in the North San Fernando Valley, and they have to drive down to Norwalk, which in traffic could be 3 hours.
Oh, geez.
And so maybe they have to go down there and show their ID and say, yes, this is my ballot. Count it, please. But they're also asking people who didn't vote, who know that they were registered in the city of LA, to go check and see if a ballot was cast in their name.
Oh.
Because that could be another way to challenge some of these votes.
I would suggest that too. There was a hell of a lot of voter impersonation in LA County for sure.
I mean, my dad lived in the city of LA when he died in 2017, and I went back a couple days ago and checked to make sure that there was no ballot cast in his name, and thankfully there wasn't.
I kind of wonder. I still get my California ballot.
I don't.
I collect them.
I'm in exile in Nevada, and they got me off those rolls right away.
Oh, I didn't tell them. I mean, I just obviously pay taxes somewhere else, but
right.
But but I mean, I just keep gathering them. And my daughter, who does live there as well, she says, okay, so I moved. She just moved. And but she did not get her ballot forwarded to her. I guess that's probably policy or what have you. But but then she tried to. They won't forward them. Is that correct?
They're not supposed to, but they have. And I think that it's I've heard from a lot of Palisades voters, they were not getting their ballot.
Oh, I'm not surprised. Big surprise. Yeah. How is that going right now? I mean, sorry, just sort of, hey, left wing, woo! Let's talk about the Palisades fire. Yeah, right. I'm so profoundly angered by this story. I will never get over this story. Tell me what's going on. I know the firebug arsonist jackass who hates corporate billionaires. He's in court, but
Yeah, he's on trial in federal court. I wish we could have cameras in that courtroom.
I know.
Interesting. They tried to subpoena Karen Bass, but as part of the defense, part of his defense strategy is that the fire only got so big because of the negligence of the things like the Palisades people are alleging in their lawsuit. But the judge wouldn't let that happen. Basically, there's the civil lawsuit, which I think will be huge, is going forward. Every roadblock that the city of LA and the state has tried to put up has been knocked down. We found out earlier this week that Karen Bass's brother is actually a part of that lawsuit. His house burned in the Palisades.
Really?
And he's part of that lawsuit.
Oh, that is something. We've spoken with Trey Robertson before on the program. He's the attorney. He's wonderful, and maybe we'll have him back. But I mean, it was just gobsmacker after gobsmacker after. I mean, I thought I knew kind of a lot about the story. Oh no.
Right.
Oh no. He was.
And then for these people to be saying, like Jimmy Kimmel saying, "Oh, Spencer Pratt will get you a U-Haul," and then I saw on Facebook there was some post about Spencer Pratt yesterday, and all these people it's because Heidi Montag was seen out and about for the first time since the election, and she wasn't with Spencer, and so all these mean, terrible people in the comments. Oh, was she out getting moving boxes? Was she out this? Going, they don't have anything.
Yeah, they don't have anything. Did you see Spencer's post about how it's going to cost $2.5 million just to put up the outside superstructure of the house, 2,500 square foot house?
That's insane.
Yeah, it's LA, and then to furnish, to finish all the millwork, whatever it is that you're going to do in that thing, it's another $5 million. If that's
because I heard that it was around $7 million. And I think the house was worth like 3 or 4.
Okay,
total,
well, I believe it.
Burned. And so that's crazy for the cost to be that much more.
Yeah, and I thought Karen Bass was going to make it easier for people to rebuild. I know that was bunk, but I mean, I thought that was at least the words that came out of her mouth. She may not have meant them, but she's done next to nothing to do anything about that.
Yeah, and I'm a little wondering also what happened with Rick Grinnell. He was supposed to be the rebuilding czar.
That's a great question. Let's get on his case about that.
But I think we need to, because I mean, I know he has a lot of other things going on too, but these people are Americans that need help.
Yeah. I mean, he's amazing, and he's living in California. He should do that. I mean, that should be his gig, and he's always doing special things for the president. It's awesome, but he's a no-show right now, so he needs to be. Maybe
that's what we have Spencer Pratt do. Maybe the federal government puts him in charge of that. I feel like even if he doesn't make it to the top 2, there's going to be a silver lining, and there's going to be. It's going to be. I mean, a lot of times it's happened in my life where I look back and go, you know what? God made that happen on purpose, because what happened next is so much better than what I thought I wanted originally.
Yeah, I know. We always think, we plan, God laughs kind of a thing.
Right.
But there's a lot of truth to that. And sometimes you just don't know what the end game is. Yeah. So Spencer's he's looking into curing ballots. He's also looking into, I saw a post that he issued and says, that's 43,000 ballots. That's interesting. That's exactly the same amount. Where have I seen that number before?
Right.
I've seen that number on Skid Row. Is there anything, what are you thinking about that?
Well, that's part of what the Latinos Poor Pratt group is doing, and I'm actually volunteering in all of my spare time with that group. Because what they're trying to do is find anomalies, like, some dumpster where there's 50 people registered to vote or something.
Right.
And then, we go out and we'll take pictures and geotag them to show there is no way that a ballot could have gone here for someone to fill out. Also pursuing things, and it goes along with an investigation I was working on about Chirla before the election. Allegations that these people in the homeless shelters or within other
you froze up on me.
Social services areas, whether they go to mental health or LA City, that they're being forced to fill out their ballots a certain way, or to just give their blank ballots with a signed envelope to people, in order to not get beat up or in order to get their services. Looking into allegations of that too, because obviously that's very criminal, but also kind of casts doubt on the results of the election.
Oh, interesting. Now, I don't trust Chirla ever since they started fomenting the riots against ICE.
I didn't trust them before that, but yeah. I saw them in 2015 when Trump was in LA. They did a whole protest out in front of the Lux Hotel, and they tried to make it look grassroots, but then of course they had all the buses around the corner and people with all their Chirla t-shirts and signs.
They're as bad as the SEIU. Are they the same people?
There's a lot of crossover, but they're actually affiliated with PSL and all of that group, and Code Pink and everyone too. So it's just like this huge web of terrible, evil people.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about it. You're right there, and I know that you care. I mean, she refuses. You're going to stay and fight, but you've had to get out for security reasons, right?
Yeah. So I go back unannounced from time to time to work on things. But yeah, I had to get out of there because the Chirla people and others, I had too many threats.
Yeah. Are they looking into that? Is somebody looking into that? The feds maybe? They have a C3 status, doesn't Shirley?
I
Or
have
are
a
they
C3 and a C4. Not a lot right now, but I'm just working on taking them down, and then it doesn't matter. Then I can go home.
If you need any help, I'd be very happy to help.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Take care. Jen Van Laar. She's with Red State, the managing editor, and she's just constantly working on stories. And if you have any tips, send them her way and my way too, actually, so I can keep on top of what's going on. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. So, the bottom line of this is there's so much dysfunction in the state of California. And as Christian pointed out, they have done that on purpose. There is planned chaos. If they wanted to have planned and commissioned and carried out a clean election system in the state of California, they would have done so. We used to have one. Before 2015, there was a new way of doing elections in California. Still got to go to a polling place. It was before 2020, obviously, and the fact that there would be universal mail-out ballots, and that changed everything. It was bad before. It grew worse after 2020 and the universal mail-out ballots and mailing out ballots to people who just have a touch with the government system. As J. Kirsten Adams pointed out, well, okay, so you have everybody who has something to do with the government. You're not going to get somebody with an SBA loan. That's a federal thing, so he's not going to get a ballot. But if somebody's on welfare or getting ETC or anything else and making sure that they're on, getting SNAP or would have benefits that are sent through the state government, they get a ballot. They're automatically registered to vote. Like, okay, interesting. So it's caused a mess, is what it has. And then people just say the ballots just keep coming. They could have moved. They don't know. The ballots keep on coming. And so what that does is, people, if they're not voting the ballot, somebody's voting the ballot. I think if we were to go back, we'd find probably a decent percentage of the ballots that were just universally mailed out, not necessarily voted by the person, were at least filled out by someone else. I mean, that like Jen was just talking about the fact that her dad she checked to see if her deceased father was still voting in the state of California. No, he's not. But trust me when I tell you, it's entirely possible. Entirely possible. Okay. Man, oh man. We have a small Iran sit rep for you today. I wanted to let you know about this. And the reason is because over the last 24 hours, a couple of things. I'm getting whipsawed again from, President Trump saying, okay, well, day 3 of bombing, we're going to go for it. Next thing we're going to do is get Karg Island. That was the latest, and all of a sudden the Iranians go, oh, well, no, wait a minute now. We'll come back to the table. And so he stopped bombing them. But he is just bombing the crap out of them. First it was Israel bombing them, and then it was us bombing for the last 2 days into day 3. And now of course, the Iranians are going, please stop that. I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we giving them any quarter whatsoever? But Trump's Trump, he hates war, so what are you going to do? So, okay, all right. He wants to go down in history as the guy who didn't keep, endless wars going. Okay, fine. I don't like endless wars either. Nobody likes endless wars. But what was cool over the last couple of days, Monday night, this was not the cool part, trust me when I tell you. The cool part was not that our Apache helicopter pilots were blown out of they weren't blown out of the sky. That was the really interesting thing. What was going on was remember a few months ago, a couple of months back. And so I was saying, hey, when the Iranians decided, IRGC, not the Iranians, the IRGC, the Islamic nutballs. And they took over, or tried to, they sort of asserted themselves and started doing violence against certain ships that came into the Strait of Hormuz. And on the way to Karg Island. And so what we did was, I say United States, because I am on the side of the United States. Okay. I don't know whose side you're on. I'm on our side. So anyway, so we stopped. You stopped the oil from and to Iran. And then, so President Trump said, okay, screw this. After what happened was they sent the IRGC sent one of their drones. I don't know what size drone this was. And it pierced an Apache helicopter and got into the cockpit of an Apache helicopter. And it wedged itself between the two pilots. Now, you want to talk about a pucker factor. I mean, this is just unbelievable. And so I wrote a story about it because here's the thing. You know how they were rescued? They were rescued by a drone boat. And the reason I bring it up is because it wasn't too long ago that I talked about using a drone boat or, autonomous boat, because I saw some video of one out of Washington State, the naval shipyard there. So, so local Seattle station got some video of it. And I showed it to you. And I was told to keep my trap shut because I'm just a dumb girl and I've never served. I didn't get the dumb girl thing, but whatever. But I said, hey, why not use a drone boat, float it out in the Strait of Hormuz, find out, and then when it is attacked and targeted by the IRGC, then home in on the missile installations. Okay? That's what I was saying. And so I said, that's dumb. Blah, blah, blah. And I was told to keep my mouth shut because I didn't know what I was talking about because I didn't serve. Well, I happen to have opinions. I'm a person. I have opinions. I've had a lot of opinions over the last many decades on radio and in print and on this podcast, as a matter of fact. And I thought, okay. When the drone boat was sent to rescue the pilots, I went, oh my gosh, I know whose this is. It's Saronics. I bet you anything. And the reason I know that is because you and I've told you about this before. I'm going to find the Saronic. Where the heck? I had that. Oh, I know. I got it. You and I have had this discussion before because, I go, I told you there are drone boats. There've got to be drone ships. And, this is it. This is what they've got. This is what they can use, right? And doggone, if I didn't start looking around and finding the people who did this, and the people who did this and built this boat that rescued the two Apache helicopter pilots was made by this company in the United States by a guy who was a financier after he left the Navy SEAL DevGru team and said, hey, I'm looking for some way we can help. And he saw this huge hole in the market. And the reason I know this is because God bless Sean Ryan in his podcast. He does, I really enjoy his military podcasts. Some of the other stuff's not, but I mean, fine. But I enjoy his military ones, and so I learn a lot. And I remember, one night in the middle of the night, I heard this guy. It was just like on YouTube Auto, and all of a sudden I'm hearing Sean Ryan in my 3 o'clock in the morning, and I went, what? And it's this CEO who has created this product, and of course with a team of people, And these are drone boats. And they started out with a 24-foot boat. And I want you to see this. I'm going to bring you the video of their boats. This is exactly the kind of boat that was tasked to go find the drone or the Apache pilots. And they found the guys 2 hours after they crashed. These boats are operated by humans, and they can operate a huge fleet of these boats. One guy can do that. Here's a little beauty shot of these drone boats, these autonomous boats. These are not propelled by individuals. Oh, yeah. So that's the Corsair, and that is from the PR department of this company, and pretty interesting. So I did a story about it. Here it is. Story behind that drone boat is almost as cool as the Apache pilot rescue. It's pretty cool, and I linked over to the Sean Ryan podcast with this almost 4-hour interview with the man who started this company with others. Felt like there's got to be a way. We have submersibles that are drones. We have aerial drones. How in heaven's name do we not have surface ships that are drones? Well, now they're starting to produce surface ships that are 150 feet and more long. And these ones are the Corsairs, I think. Those are the smaller ones, 24 feet, I think it is. So, but this guy, let's see, Mavroukas, Dino Mavroukas is the CEO of this company. And he says, so I walk up, because the Navy SEALs have always used the, what do you call them? Zodiacs. They always use the Zodiacs, and the guys, and Mavroukas says, the engines never start. There's always issues. What the heck, man? And he says, so I walk up to the Zodiac guy. And Zodiacs, the speedboats we use in the SEAL teams, the outboard motor carrying 6 people. They look like they're from Vietnam. They're 70s technology, and the motor's never starting. It's always a piece of crap. So if you go to the Zodiac website, however, they have these really cool, fully electric drive, jet drive, like push button Zodiac. So I go to the booth and I'm asking the guy, hey, you got this on the website. Where are they? And they go, we're 2 different companies. This is the military company. Military company doesn't do any innovating, is basically what he found out. And then he said, well, okay, so the second question I had, he tells Sean Ryan I'm getting these quotes from the Sean Ryan show. Next question I had was like, does anybody care that this company doesn't exist? Right? Does it matter? Because it's okay to have a gap in the market. The question is that gap going to get filled? Can you build a real generational company here? Basically, is the Navy actually going to buy thousands of autonomous systems or not? And if the answer is no, that's okay. I just don't want to start this company because it doesn't matter. Because he wants to do something that helps our sailors, Marines, and Army soldiers. So then here's another beauty shot of the Corsairs. And so anyway, that's it. Were it not for, and if the Navy secretary hadn't been fired, he was fired, Trump fired him, or, Pete Hegseth did. And the story goes that he was really slowing down on building ships. And Trump, Hegseth and Trump know, they go, oh man, we got to get these autonomous ships in here. And he was just dragging his feet. And so Phelan went, he left the building. And all of a sudden, the next time you hear about these autonomous boats, they're saving the day in the Strait of Hormuz. They're saving our Apache helicopter pilots. So right on. It's pretty cool. And they're operated by humans on, joystick, whatever. And in this interview with Sean Ryan, which was in early 2025. So lots of things have changed. But he said, you can have one guy manning up to 100 boats, operating 100 boats in a particular theater of war. Now, that's a big thing. Especially since we are at a deficit vis-a-vis China with our surface ships, our Navy. So anyway, this is the big equalizer. At least that's what they're hoping. And we just saw it for ourselves. We haven't seen any video per se of it. But that is to say, they rescued the 2 pilots. So that's pretty cool. Pretty darn cool. So that's good news. And around SITREP today. And we don't usually do that on Thursdays, but there you are. We do have some comments about our conversation about the election day, and then we're going to get to the Epstein Thursday update. I know it's already after 2. People were bragging about their cat and dog voting. Absolutely. I did have a story about the dog voting. I remember in Washington State, I was in Portland doing my show, and a woman, this is probably early 2000s, and a woman signed up her dog, and then she got fined for that. She just wanted to see how loosey-goosey the system was. Oh, she found out. Oh, did she find out? And then they prosecuted her. Okay. It's funny that all the leftist states don't want to remove the voter rolls of dead people, though. I know. Kind of sus. Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so now, good news. The good news is we had some clarification, some transparency from the folks who have had anything to do with the Epstein files. Okay? One of the things that, I'll do that in a second. Sorry, just looking at my notes for myself. Pam Bondi went before the Oversight Committee in May, and just a few days ago, her transcript of her conversation with the Oversight Committee members, both Democrat and Republican, were made available. The transcript was made available, and there's pretty interesting things. Now, you and I both know that there's not a lot of there necessarily in the Epstein stuff necessarily. But just because your name is in the Epstein file could mean any number of things. My name's not there, but on the other hand, I'm not any big shot. And so, but the thing is that your name could be there because Jeffrey Epstein said something naughty about you or nice about you or mentioned you, sniped about you, put your name in an email. There's a picture of Jeffrey Epstein and President Trump or something, which exists. And all sorts of things. Jeffrey Epstein's assistant is going to be, I believe she did get questioned this week, and that transcript is not made it out yet. But Bill Gates was on Capitol Hill yesterday talking about Jeffrey Epstein with the Oversight Committee. Let's just we got a couple of sound bites. One of it, which is just, a circus, but here we go.
I'm glad to be here voluntarily to testify to help with the committee's work.
He's not glad. He's not glad. His wife divorced him over Epstein, okay? So let's
I'll
keep.
start with an opening statement in the hearing room. I hope my testimony is helpful to the important work of the committee to find justice for the victims. Thank you.
Find justice for the victims. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Then we got this. Lots of things going on in this particular soundbite. It's woo! And then the one thing I got, at first I went, oh, brother, this is hilarious because, I mean, the guy's saying stuff people think, but it's totally off the rails. But then I looked at it and I go, please count the security people that Bill Gates has. Watch this.
Follow Jesus, Bill. Stop being a baby flesh eater. Stop consuming adrenochrome. Follow King Jesus. You can't escape his gaze, Bill Gates. God sees all your evil, Bill Gates. Every day he sees it.
I mean, he's got like
You reap
6
what
guys.
You sow, Bill. You can't escape the eyes of King Jesus. He's watching you. You Satanist, you transgender, Bill Gates. God knows you're a woman, Bill. There's nowhere to hide, Bill. Jesus is watching you.
Sir, step out of the path.
You got nowhere to hide, Bill.
1, 2, 3,
Transgender.
4. I mean, he had like 6 people. He had like 6 people around him. And then there's this guy yelling at him. It's just like, Capitol Hill. It's kind of crazy. I went to Capitol Hill one time and I went to a couple of different hearings. This is years ago. And there she was, Medea Benjamin, Code Pink, and she stops the entire process. She's literally stopping the Senate from conducting business. And I mean, I keep thinking every day Medea Benjamin is committing an act of stopping the government from doing its work, which is what I think a lot of people went to prison for on January 6th. It is crazy. She does it every single day. She and her buddies. Okay, so that happened. Here we go with one more of our deals here. I'm going to share this. Oh, interesting. I think I have to bring that up in a different way. Hold on just a second. I have Pam Bondi's transcript. So let me just make sure I can do this. It's PDF, right? Huh. Wait a minute. No, this is a web page. PDF, yeah. I can do that. Sorry, guys. I thought I had this all teed up to go because we try to do a professional job to some extent, and I failed. So, oh, I see what's going on. Stand by here. Share screen. I just share screen. My share screen thing went off the rails. There we go. God bless America. God bless America. Pam Bondi, right here. All right. 111-page transcript. Here, 111. So I went over the highlights, so you don't have to. A couple of different pages that I wanted to call your attention to, and I had many. Now, on page 18, now, first of all, the attorneys start, and then the dipsticks, who are the congressional members, start asking questions. So they're giving it attorneys first, and then they start asking questions. So that's the way it works. You find out what dipsticks there are in Congress. How some people are incredibly untalented. And there are all attorneys, mind you. Not all of them, I'm just exaggerating. But they feel like they're all attorneys, and they act like they're not. Or they act like they've never been in a courtroom before. Or they act as if they've never questioned somebody before. Or anyway, so what was interesting, multiple things were interesting. Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General, is being questioned, and with her, which I found weird, was Harmeet Dillon, the former attorney in private practice turned civil rights division head for the Department of Justice, and who had previously worked for and with Pam Bondi. So I don't think there's anything amiss about that. It's just weird. It's just kind of weird. Usually they have their own private attorneys, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's because Harmeet is, she knows what she's doing. So let's go to page 18. I wanted to make sure that we got a look at this because it goes over the TikTok of the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. And there we go. Okay, into here. So they talk about Attorney General Bondi. Do you recognize this letter? Yes, this is the letter I referred to earlier, dated 27 February 2025, that I sent to Director Patel. And to clarify, I said we had released approximately 300 maybe earlier documents. There are about 200 pages, according to the letter that I sent him. So they start out, first of all, ain't nobody talking about the Jeffrey Epstein files except Donald Trump on the campaign trail, and promises of radical transparency. The words of that are, I don't know, it's a phrase, a catchphrase now. And so they say, okay, we're going to release the Epstein files. And then the Congress, the Democrats in Congress go, aha, working with James Comer and others, as well as, oh God, what's his name? Who's leaving Congress? I'll think of it in a second. Forgive me for just a moment. Thomas Massey. And so Thomas Massey and the Democrats, with like Ro Khanna, put together a Jeffrey Epstein Transparency Act, wherein the United States government, the DOJ, has to turn over all Jeffrey Epstein files in 30 days. So it starts out like with 300 documents. And then pretty soon they realize that, remember the big stupid thing Pam Bondi did? She has all these people who are conservative influencers on social media, influencers, and she provides them with a thick binder of Jeffrey Epstein documents. And she, these are the Jeffrey Epstein documents, which is, I think, the 300 pages. Well, the 300 pages are stuff we've already seen before, like the flight logs and stuff. I mean, we've known Bill Clinton was on the Lolita Express for years, right? We also know that there's a passenger list, a manifest. We've seen those names. Doesn't mean a hell of beans necessarily. Does it mean that the actors and actresses and all sorts of people who were on the Lolita Express catching a ride with Jeffrey Epstein on his 757 or 740, I don't even know what it was. Is this a provable connection between Jeffrey Epstein and this person and acts that are heinous acts? No. So she provides the influencers with that information. And everybody's going like, what? And remember the big old pictures? They all of them post, hey, I got the Epstein files. Got the Epstein files. And it wasn't. It was the stuff we've already seen before. So she goes over that, and then she also tells the committee that the person in charge, she put Todd Blanche in charge of releasing the Epstein files. And then they found out that most of the Epstein files were not at the DOJ. I mean, in D.C. Oh, no. They were in the Southern District of New York, because all of them were there because of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Remember, that was fronted. I think Maureen Comey was the lead prosecutor on that. And remember, she was also the lead prosecutor on the Diddy. And then she left after she lost the Diddy case. I mean, she's like, we out. And I believe, this is just a suspicion of mine, that she is the one who released the information about the birthday book or whatever, tried to get Donald Trump in trouble for making a doodle that went into his birthday book that was put together by his assistant. It's like, what? Anyway, Donald Trump swears on a Bible. He's never done any doodling in his life. I have no reason to disbelieve him. But anyway, so I await the transcript of the assistant to Jeffrey Epstein, which will be forthcoming. So here we have the Pam Bondi one. I've got to go to my next one. Reminder on page 19 that the SDNY was withholding the documents, so that we saw that. Page 20, she claims that, oh, this is so funny. Some of this stuff was so ridiculous. You're going to have to ask somebody else about certain things. I'm not the answer. And the Democrats were very interested, page 24. We'll do a little byplay here on the colloquy between these two. And it was very interested in Ghislaine Maxwell being switched to a different lockup facility. And as far as the transcript itself and what has been released publicly, how did the Department of Justice determine which individuals would be redacted from the transcript? Great question. Not what I was looking for at that moment, but okay, great question. The Deputy Attorney Blanche made that determination based on the law, and the privileges would apply. So she goes through this, and she talks about a couple of key things here. Throughout this entire 4 or 5 hour long deposition, we learn, if you didn't know before, that people believe that there are 6 million documents in the universe of Jeffrey Epstein documents. Bondi says in this meeting, this deposition, that some, if not all, of the, they finally released 3.5 million, right? So they released 3.5 million, and there are 6 million in the universe because some of those were the same documents. They were duplicative. And some of them were not shown to congressional members in their reading room because they were privileged, which means that certain memos between prosecutors and that sort of thing were not allowed to be shown. Some of them were, all the ones that the congressional representatives saw, the people on this committee, they were all open. There were no things that were crossed out, okay, except the things that came from the SDNY, which the DOJ did not do. The SDNY did that. So anyway, so it goes in. Following this interview, Ghislaine Maxwell was moved by the Bureau of Prisons from a maximum security prison in Florida to a low security federal prison in Texas on August 1, 2025. Why was that? This is after the Todd Blanche interview with her, because Ghislaine Maxwell wanted to dangle some salacious details or what have you in about the Epstein situation so that she could get a pardon from Donald Trump. Yeah, no. But anyway, but she was moved. And so here's what Pam Bondi said. I read about it in the newspaper or online after it happened. I had nothing to do with that. That's a Bureau of Prisons thing. And then she later said, wait a second, are you sure it was a less secure facility than the one she was in before? I thought it was like on par. So she says, wait a minute. Would then Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche know the answer to that question? He may, and I'm not sure if he'd addressed that publicly, probably, but transferring a prisoner is a decision of the Bureau of Prisons. To be clear, and to your knowledge, do you know if her transfer had anything to do with her participating in the interview with Todd Blanche? I have no knowledge of that, she said. Again, I found out about it after the transfer when it became public. Okay, so I'm going to go, Ro Khanna appears on page 30. He just walked in. And that was a theme, because not everybody can make all the meetings. That just happens. Congressional representatives are very busy and that sort of thing. But the bottom line is that a lot of times when they had meetings with congressional reps on the Oversight Committee, the Democrats didn't show up. And Pam Bondi, I mean, she's hour 4 and she's going, hey, man, it's not my fault you didn't show up to get these answers. I've already said them previously in this deposition. I have shown you, I have told you, and I'm like Dave Min from Orange County. Oh, gee, that guy. I'm telling you, I have this thing about him. Like, anything in, hey, knock, knock, knock. Anything in there? That guy, he comes in and he starts asking questions that have been asked like 3 or 4 times. And she's going, I already answered that question. And he always tries to sound like, hey, I've just discovered America. I've just discovered water. Do you know that there's a hydrogen molecule in the universe? I just discovered it. And so that's kind of the way he is. And so it's just, really annoying. Anyway, page 30 is like, so I mean, an hour into this thing, at least. That's when Ro Khanna appears. He and Massey work together to, out the Epstein files, which is great. All of a sudden, Democrats are interested in the Epstein files. 4 years of Joe Biden, ain't nobody interested. Nobody wants to have a thing to do with those things. They're too busy rolling up ardent believing Catholics to do that. Can't do that. No. So anyway, I'm going through my notes here. Harmeet Dillon is there, page 28. Let's go to page 28. It's kind of funny. But Harmeet Dillon, she is now. You want to talk about somebody who knows how to conduct herself in court? Yeah, Harmeet Dillon. She's your girl. So Harmeet Dillon shows up on. Here we go. In relation to EFTA, which is the Jeffrey Epstein Transparency Act. Epstein File Transparency Act, EFTA, and the department's obligations thereunder. What concerns was or did Todd Blanche express concerns as far as releasing documents? What was he saying? You're just you're begging for hearsay evidence. Dillon goes, I'm just going to point out that you can answer that. She's talking to Bondi. You can answer that to the extent that it doesn't reveal protected communications. Bondi, I can say I believe everyone was concerned about protecting victims' identities, given the 6 million pages of documents that we received in a 30-day timeline to comply with that process. And they went through 3 million, all of them, I guess, and they had 500 people working on that to get to make sure that they could get it through to make the deadline. They didn't make the deadline. They started just rolling revelation of all the documents as the time went on. And no victim information was supposed to be revealed, although accidentally it was. And then they immediately stopped that. And then in addition to that, there were people, the other ones about the prosecutorial memos and stuff like that, they didn't reveal those. So there was privileged information, there was victim information, and there were things that were not even, they did not pertain to the Epstein matter whatsoever. Why they were in that universe of documents, I do not know, but she didn't elaborate on that. Anyway, so I thought it was funny that Harmeet Dillon shows up for this. Let's see. Oh, and here we go. Page 31. What remains duplicative? Because people want to know this because they say that we have to release all the Jeffrey Epstein documents. The Congress on the Oversight Committee has had access to all of them. All of them. According to according to Pam Bondi. In the reading room. That's the universe of all documents. Some of them which are duplicative. If they're duplicative, they didn't even bother to do it. They didn't take them, and they just said, here are all the documents. We have one copy, you don't want two. One person, one congressional member tried to take an original document out of the reading room. And that person was not identified, but in the next breath, Pam Bondi talked about Pramila Jayapal of the state of Washington, who's a commie. And she's the one who made, hey, look at all these people standing up. Now, Pramila Jayapal's never said word one about the Jeffrey Epstein files until she thought it could come to, mean she could get Donald Trump with him or something or make him look bad or whatever. 4 years of Joe Biden. Nothing. Now, all of a sudden, she's here, and she wanted Pam Bondi to turn around and apologize to all those people. To which Pam Bondi said, I apologize. I am sympathetic to all victims and did not turn around and give Pramila Jayapal her dramatic moment for the cameras. But anyway, so let's see. We've got to page 30. I know that you've already mentioned how many documents were produced, but again, for the record, how many total documents or materials did the Department of Justice produce to the public pursuant to the Epstein Files Transparency Act? Approximately 3 million, says Pam Bondi. And there's been public statements, I believe, that then Deputy Attorney General Blanche had said that at one point there were 6 million total potentially responsive materials. Is that right? He did. And he's clarified that multiple times, I believe, publicly, indicating that a lot of it, much of it was duplicative because it was coming from 2 districts doing some of the same work, same documents involved, and some was privileged. And he also stated that some of the material had absolutely nothing to do with Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein. It was an over collection, said Bondi, in an effort to ensure radical transparency for the country. So question. So to be clear, there's been a lot said and accusations that the department did not produce everything. Now, this is for all of you people who say that there are still millions of documents out there. This is the answer to that question. You may not like the answer, but this is Pam Bondi's answer. And this is what she's telling us. And this isn't the first time that the Oversight Committee has heard this. The Oversight Committee knows this because the Oversight Committee has had access to the so-called reading room to look at the docs. So, yeah. They're lying. Oh, we don't have all the documents. You can't prove a negative. So, anyway. He clarified that multiple times, I believe, publicly, indicating that much of it was duplicative because it was coming from 2 districts and some was privileged. Also, he stated that some of the material had absolutely nothing to do with Epstein. It was over collection. Over collection. To be clear, says the questioner. So to be clear, a lot has been said and accusations that the department did not produce everything. Attorney General Bondi, are there any documents remaining in possession of the Department of Justice that are required to be released pursuant to the Epstein Files Transparency Act? To my knowledge, they've all been released. To my knowledge. And why do people keep asking for files to be released then? In her answer, the unredacted versions are also available to members of Congress, including the duplicative material. So, and I believe that's still available, so Congress can go see for themselves. The 6 million pages versus the 3 million was released, and much of it was duplicative or privileged or completely unrelated to Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, maybe you don't like Pam Bondi, Jeffrey Epstein fanatics. I get it. I understand. I have a fundamental problem believing everything the government tells me. Okay? I'm with you. The thing is that sometimes you have to take yes for an answer. Okay? It does happen. And sometimes you got to believe somebody. Are you willing to believe crazy conspiracy theories without foundation? Okay? Or here's the answer to your question. All the files have been released. All the files they can. Of course, grand jury testimony can't do that. That got stopped by a couple of judges. And it wasn't until after the Transparency Act that they had access to the other stuff and they were able to release it. So Congress goes in, Congress passes it, boom. Donald Trump signs it into law. Radical transparency. Boom. You got all the stuff. Oh, but you didn't give us everything. Remember when, we've already talked about this on, Epstein Thursday. But the thing is that Ro Khanna went on the floor of the House. And he goes and he mentions names of, I think it was 6 individuals. And he alleged that they were perverts. When, in fact, they were in the Epstein file. Their names were there. These were redacted. And I've got the unredacted things. Okay. They were the HVAC dudes who worked on like Jeffrey Epstein's house or something. Or maybe it was Howard Lutnick's house. Either way, they weren't pervs. They were just dudes construction workers. Just no thought whatsoever, assuming the worst. And, sometimes people just don't take yes for an answer. Let's see. At this time, I would like to introduce what will be marked as Majority Exhibit 3, and this is a letter from the Department of Justice to Senators of Congress on January 30th. I would like to introduce it as marked blah, 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 and I'll give you a moment to review. And, okay, these are my questions. Attorney General Bondi, these are notifications that you provided Congress pursuant to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Yes. And again, you touched on it previously, but there are certain categories of documents that are not produced, right? Yes. And you said, again, I believe one class was duplicative documents. And for the record, I know you've been an attorney for many years, but can you explain again what qualifies as a duplicative document? Sure. The same document released twice. And that occurred, I believe, because there were documents in multiple districts within the country, specifically, I believe, the Southern District of Florida and the Southern District of New York, she said. Okay, so now, and understanding that, then Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche was overseeing these efforts. Did he ever brief you on how many documents were considered to be duplicative? Not specifically, but I believed it was approximately 3 million documents believed to be duplicative. I believe duplicative. No, I don't recall. Actually, she says, no, I'm sorry. I don't recall how many were duplicative. So it could have been. Now she's, okay. I think she added. And there were documents that were privileged, yes. And can you elaborate on why those cannot be produced? Yes, I can give you an example, which would be a prosecution memo is privileged. And who made the determination whether a document was considered privileged? Todd Blanche, while following the law. And here's another question. Todd Blanche never approached you about any specific documents as it relates to privilege. Probably, I don't recall specifically, but we probably talked about it. I talk to him every day about multiple issues around the country and the world because he reported to her. And I know you touched on this previously, but the Department of Justice, according to these letters, said that there were certain files that were withheld because they were not part of the case file for Epstein or Maxwell and were completely unrelated to these cases. Is that right? Yes. Can you give us an example of what would have been captured by that? Well, I believe an example would be that Todd Blanche used was that there was someone else in South Florida with the name Epstein, an entire case that had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Remember that? Remember when Jasmine Crockett, who also is a member of this committee and has beclowned herself on multiple occasions in this committee, said she thought, aha, I have found Jeffrey Epstein. And she started releasing information from the Jeffrey Epstein file, which turned out to be another Jeffrey Epstein who happened to live in Florida also, who was a dentist, I think it was. Yeah, so that happened. And for the record, recognizing that you have to conduct a search and it produced millions of documents, if those documents were determined to have nothing to do with that Epstein or Maxwell cases, why were they originally included in this search that the Department of Justice conducted? We wanted to have radical transparency and find everything that was related to Jeffrey Epstein, and that's why the search was overbroad. Now, thank you. These are important. People, I know that for some people this is just like watching paint dry. I get it. I understand. I mean, I've already read these, I just want you to know that this is one of the fundamental questions that the people who don't believe that the Trump administration has been transparent on the Jeffrey Epstein thing, they say, well, there are still files out there. And some of them have been not allowed to be released because of judicial decisions, some grand jury testimony, as well as things that are not specific to the case. It might be about that other Jeffrey Epstein, that sort of thing. And during this process, when you were preparing documents to be produced, were there concerns what should or should not be redacted? I believe so, she said. Did you have concerns? Yeah, I had grave concerns about victims' names released because because of the volume of documents and the time frame in which those documents had to be released. And I believe most people in my office shared those same concerns. Pam Bondi, by the way, was a prosecutor for years before she became the AG of Florida and then ultimately the AG of the United States. So she's a victim. I mean, prosecutors are victims, people. I mean, that's who they're going to court for. The state brings charges against the person who has harmed the victim. So she's basically a victim's advocate. It's in a prosecutor's DNA. Okay, that's just it. So for those of you who don't believe that she cares about victims, just check yourself on that one, because that actually is part of what goes on. Also, I mean, all attorneys care for their clients. I'm not going to say that they don't. Of course they do. They're great advocates for their clients. But prosecutors, really in it for the victims. Are there guidelines in place for the DOJ employees on how to make redactions? I believe Deputy Attorney General Blanche, now Acting Attorney General Blanche, laid out those guidelines for the viewers and the attorneys who reviewed the material, and I believe some of it, protocol is listed in those memos as well. Those memos were available to the Congress and the Oversight Committee. Okay, so let's back to my notes. I want to see what else I need to... okay, page 43. Page 43. I like it when Harmeet Dillon pops up. Let me just take a drink. It's just Element. That's all it is. Nothing untoward. No adult beverages. Okay. Well, this goes directly to... Oh, wait, these are objections. Okay. So they got an exhibit marked for identification. I'll give you a minute to look it over, and what was the date of that? I'll give you a copy, but the date is July 7th, 2019. So here's Harmeet Dillon. Look at the document, but I'll make an objection. To your knowledge, who were these 10 individuals, or 10 individuals that were redacted, they said? And I'm going to object to this question. It's beyond the scope of the witness's voluntary interview here today, which is concerning the things that she did or was responsible for during her tenure as Attorney General. Well, this goes directly to the Epstein investigation, said the redacted individual who's working for the minority. I think that the 2019 investigation, was also discussed in the previous round, so I'd be hard-pressed to understand why the nature of the objection. Dylan, I don't know what to do to help you understand it, but it is my objection. Blank. If you could just use the microphone. So, people have difficulty hearing the individuals, the people who just beclowned them. So they always, I couldn't hear that. I'm having difficulty hearing you. Okay. Yeah, I understand your question. It's beyond the scope. Would it be your view that the 2019 Epstein investigation in its totality is beyond the scope of today's conversation? The scope of today's transcribed interview is what the former Attorney General sitting next to me did regarding the Epstein transparency files and related matters during her tenure. That is the scope. That was the agreement. So in just a sort of yes or no way, would it be your understanding that, for example, the 2019 Epstein investigation in its totality would be outside the scope of today's conversation? Dylan, yes. Okay, would it be your understanding that any related and Epstein-related fact or question that does not live inside the witness's date range as Attorney General will be outside the scope of the conversation? Generally, yes, unless she has personal knowledge that comes from that time, post-dates that time period. Anyway, goes on because, Harmeet Dillon is no fool. She knows what the scope of the conversation is here, this voluntary interview. And there was also actually some byplay with Dillon, Bondi, and the Democrats. I think, were you here? Were you here? Based on your act as Attorney General, or were you here because we compelled you by subpoena? Is it a distinction without a difference? Probably. Let me go back to my notes. A couple more things. There's a lot of stuff. Let's talk about the Elon Musk tweet about Trump being in the Epstein files. And they asked Pam Bondi if she talked about it with people. She said, "Oh, I'm sure I did." Let's see what we do. Here we go, page 66. I told myself, go to line 10 and start reading. Okay, so I will. Here we go. All right. Oh, this is a Subramaniam representative. What I'm asking, though, is before the release of the files during the process, line 10. Okay, here we go. I'll start above there. Is there any reason to look for the President Trump's name or any other administration official's name before the release of the files? I don't recall, says Bondi. The old I don't recall. Subramaniam. Are you aware of any effort to do that? You don't recall? I don't recall. Okay. Are you, and you suggested, again, there were 3 million pages, says Bondi. Well, and the representative says, it's not about what's in the files. I'm asking any effort to look for President Trump or any other administration officials in the files up to the release of the files and the process of releasing the files. I don't recall. Bondi actually comes back later and says, I'm sure we did, but I don't, she switches that later in there. So, but what's interesting is it's 3 million pages. It's not about the files. What I'm asking is, any effort to look for President Trump or any other administration official's name in the files to the release of the files in the process of releasing the files? I don't recall. You don't recall. Okay. And there are various points that you suggest that the DOJ holds significant volume of child sexual abuse material within the Epstein files. Can you clarify what that means and what you meant by that? Bondi. Sure, it's CSAM. Aha. Representative Bondi says, and that's protected, as you all know, under the law, highly protected child sexual abuse material. And it later comes out that it pertains to none of the victims. It's what he downloaded from who knows wherever pervs, I guess Kick is the place to get that, right? Graham Plattner. So it's CSAM material that is child porn. So CSAM is the way that they talk about that. Well, let me just go through my notes and find out. Page 70 line. Yeah, page 70. This is where she talks about, oh, great. She talks about, you just lost that, didn't you? Yeah, of course, because guess what? Homegirl just accidentally removed it. We're going to go back here. Whee! Okay, let me see if I've got this up. I probably don't anymore. I'm going to have to redo it. So, hold on, I got to share it again. Share screen. Blah, blah, blah. No. Great. Oh, I canceled the screen sharing again. Okay, hold on. God, this is so annoying. Annoying. Apologies, everybody. Oh, I brought up the wrong one. The Pam Bondi thing was highly entertaining. And probably worth going into it, just reading it, just for grins and giggles. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to go over there. Bondi, transcript, do it. Can you all see that now? All, few of you. Okay, hold on. It's going on. Here we go. All right. God. Ah! All right. Page 70. Page 70. I wanted to. This is where, let's see. The reason I ask is because there was a reporting of when you were testifying before the Judiciary Committee that you had information on our search history for when we went to the Department of Justice. Was that something you were told to do or keep? Were you told to keep that information of our searches? But no one told me to spy on members of Congress, if that's what you mean. So it's a decision you made on your own. Bondi. Members of Congress weren't spied on. The system downloads anyone who looks at that because there are millions of pages of unredacted victims' names in there, faces, names, information that's not public, that's built into the program. In fact, when you go and review it, we have also had, I don't know if it's still happening, people in the room watching what was happening to be sure no one was walking out with unredacted victims' names on a list. In fact, they did find someone doing that. I'm aware of how that system might work, but obviously, I'm trying to ask if somebody asked you or why you had printouts of it in your hearing at the Judiciary Committee. Oh, a staffer gave me that. A lower level staffer gave me that printout, and I intended to talk to Representative Jayapal when she was questioning me about it. No one was trying to hide it. I went, Bondi and everybody in the Trump administration, like Besant, all those guys, they have ammo on everybody who's asking them questions. Because when they get, they start standing on their soapbox, she says, oh yeah, and what was it when you, let's see, it would be like, for example, when Ilhan Omar went after Nancy Mace, and Nancy Mace goes, because Nancy Mace didn't make it through the primary, South Carolina gubernatorial primary. And Nancy Mace goes, well, at least I didn't marry my brother. Stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Okay. All right, Ms. Bondi, we got 3 minutes left in the round. I'm going to try to efficiently hit a few straggling questions, and we'll take a break. Just one question globally. Mr. Blanche previously represented President Trump in a personal capacity. To your knowledge, did anyone with the Department of Justice ever express concern about Mr. Blanche's management of the Epstein file process, given his personal representation of the president? Dylan chimes in. You can answer that to the extent that it doesn't reveal internal deliberations of the Department of Justice. And Bondi says, I believe Attorney General Blanche follows all the ethics rules. He's highly ethical and follows the rules of ethics. By the way, for those who don't know, Todd Blanche used to be a federal prosecutor from the Southern District of New York. So he's worked for his own firm, White Shoe Law Firm, and SDNY. I mean, in other words, he's got pretty impeccable credentials if you're looking for that kind of public service in there. Okay, so what else? I just want to make sure I hit the high points. Line 20, Biden and missed. Oh, yeah. Page 76. Here we go. Ms. Bondi, I'm sorry. Yes, some. Let's find out what the question is. How many members that you invited pursuant to the briefing that you were at, how many members actually took you up on the offer? You mean to come to our offices and get updated? Yes, correct. I don't believe any did. And Ms. Bondi, yes, some did. I apologize. Some Republican members did. Yes, Representatives Boebert, Cloud, and Perry, and maybe Representative Burchett, maybe. Yes, 3. I was thinking about the Democrat side. No, Democrats took us up on that. I did meet at one point, but was not on the same. But she's not on this committee, Representative Jayapal. And to be clear, no Democrats on our committee took you up on your offer to meet with them and find out all these answers to these questions. No. And during the briefing, to my knowledge, no, to meet with anyone in my office, not with me. They didn't even meet with anyone in the DOJ office, AG's office. Okay, so that's worth a mention because as they do this grandstanding, I mean, both sides do it. Let's just not be honest. As they do their grandstanding, they, if they haven't availed themselves of getting up to scratch on certain issues, Ro-Khanna, then they look stupid. I mean, they look dumb, like Ro-Khanna, dumb. And so anyway, Attorney General Bondi, given the times you've testified on the subject, you're no longer involved in DOJ matters. Is there anything you've not been asked today or any other setting that you believe is relevant to this committee's investigation? No. Chairman Comer, Madam Attorney General, thank you for being here today. You've answered the questions. And then they go into the individual congressional reps. And I don't recall anything of value except them being beclowned by Harmeet Dillon was set forth. 85 salacious allegations. Oh, they said that you withdrew salacious allegations against President Trump. That was when the 13-year-old, the person who claimed to have been victimized by President Trump when she was 13, and then later recanted because she made the whole thing up. They made sure that was in there as well, and then they redacted it, and then they put it back out after, big hue and cry. Okay, you wanted it. I'm sure Trump did not like that, but, what are you going to do? Not much. So that's the Bondi stuff. Entertaining. And this is, page 91. Just one last thing about how you would want Harmeet Dillon as your attorney. Mr. Ginn. Is it Jin? Hold on, counsel. Can I just ask a question? I don't know if it's possible to do this appropriately on the record, given the nature of the person you're talking about. So this guy, this congressional representative, is trying to ask Pam Bondi about a document that he can't show her. I think that's the way that went. But I'm not sure if Attorney General Bondi knows the identity of the person you're referring to. But Ms. Bondi, I don't. Mr. Gwynn. And so I think it's hard for her to make sure that she's correctly answering the questions about the person's status and the like. Harmeet. Yeah, it's just to be a witness's best understanding, whatever the understanding is. Harmeet Dillon, we're not playing a game here, are we? Do you want to, I think only you are, says the congressional rep, Dillon, ask her the answers? I think you're the only one who is. So Harmeet goes, or do you want a shell game? So the question and every other question to the best of the witness's understanding, and if the witness lacks the understanding that you're describing, that's the answer. So Harmeet Dillon says, and if there's a lack of foundation for this question, that would be a basis not to answer it. Do you have the document? Asks Bondi. No, says somebody who's been redacted. No, we may. I think I'm willing to limit it to, do you have an understanding of any documents related but to the woman, of any friend of the woman being withheld by the DOJ? Dillon, what woman? Lack of foundation. Who is the woman? Blah, blah, blah. We don't have the rules of evidence here, but I think the witness understands the initial discussion of the... So anyway, they're asking her to confirm a pig and a poke. They don't actually, not the woman, obviously, I'm not referring to that. I mean, the poop sandwich that they're asking. Hey, can you imagine if she'd said, well, sure, I ratify everything in that document without saying the document? That's stupid. I mean, if you do that, you're dumb. And so Harmeet Dillon knows what the game they're playing is. And she goes, no, get out of here, basically. And very soon thereafter, it's all done. So lots of byplay and the end. The end. Thank you. 12:50 is when they stopped. So that is the Pam Bondi situation. I covered the major issues that people have with this issue, with this Epstein affair. I mean, what's the universe of documents? What's being withheld? Why are you withholding it? And why all of a sudden, my personal thing, hey, why all of a sudden are you guys interested in the Epstein files when you didn't give a flying flipping frittata about it? Like for the past four years during Joe Biden's presidency. Anyway, crazy day today, right? That's it for now. I think that will do fine right now. Going through a 111-page document. You're welcome. And I took the highlights. I probably missed a couple of things. It was 111 pages, by the way. I had scads of things I wanted to look out over it, but or highlight, but whatever. Don't forget, Hot Book Summer is happening on the Adult in the Room podcast. We've got spy thriller novelists coming up this summer to talk about their books and others as well. Last week we talked about J.K. Rowling. Oh, whoa. A book by a person who did a biography of her. Fascinating. Really, we had some unfortunate technical glitches because he was doing the interview in a car. It was like, what? Anyway, Alex cleaned it up. We've got it out there on a video, and we'll make sure you can get it. You just go to all of our sites. YouTube's the easiest. Okay, thank you so much for watching the Adult in the Room podcast. I hope you are better armed for the next naysayer who comes your way, whether it be about state of California elections, whether it be about the Iran sitrep, whether it's on this Jeffrey Epstein thing. I did see there might have been something that came out on Iran. So I just want to make sure before we leave the stream today, I'm going to find out if there's anything going on the news. Live updates. Trump says U.S.-Iran settlement could soon end war and open the Strait of Hormuz. Well, everybody, so nothing's changed. We've heard that before. Anyway, thank you so much for being with us today. It's Thursday. You bring in your suggestions for books. You can email me, victoria@victoriataft.com, by all means, or, post up your different things on social media, your ideas for books that you want us to cover. I appreciate it very much. And we'll see you next time. See you Tuesday, 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and the Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. Would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.